to the Talk About podcast, even though this ain't the podcast. This is Talk About That. You guys can follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and subscribe here on YouTube. Today we have a great guest. She is the owner of Lola's in Oxford, Pennsylvania. Her name is Nancy Sapp. Sapp with 2 P's, right?
Sapp with 2 P's.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. My mom sent me the last name. Actually, I think I was talking to Chelsea, and I was like, did she misspell it? And I thought maybe with the last name there would be 2 P's in it, but there is 2 P's in it. I want to talk about a bunch of stuff, but before we get into anything about Lola's and the business and everything, you were just on a trip not too long ago. Where did you go again?
I went to Belize.
Where is that?
Belize is in Central America, and it borders Guatemala and Mexico and I think Honduras, if I have that right.
Okay, and why did you go there again? For a concert, was it?
No, we went just for a vacation, my daughter's spring break, but I had been there a few times before with my uncle's church and done some mission work.
Right.
So they have a partner church in Orange Walk, Belmopan, and San Ignacio. So I'd been there for that, and then we had taken a Global Wear trip to Guatemala one year with 3 of my children and my daughter. And that's kind of like a mission/vacation trip.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and when we went down to Guatemala, we actually went through Belize.
Gotcha.
And then we came back and did a day in Belize City. But they had never gotten to see the island. They had never snorkeled on the reef because it's like the 2nd largest Great Barrier Reef in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
first time you were there? First time you've ever been there?
No. I've been there a couple times.
So I thought that's what you meant.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure. But
not the kids.
Gotcha.
So we took them and my husband, so he got to swim with the sharks and the rays.
Wow.
And
That sounds fun.
Snorkel. It was great
Sounds
fun. It's a
super
beautiful
fun.
place to visit.
So you had a great time.
Had a wonderful time.
Why did you go there the multiple years? Just because I'm not familiar with this place. Was there a particular reason why you went there multiple years, or you just?
Nope, that's just where we went.
Yeah.
Like I said, we went through Guatemala. My daughter's adopted. She's from Guatemala.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's why we chose to do a Global Wear trip to Guatemala.
Wow. That's awesome.
Cool.
But it's a really easy place to Belize, and you have great snorkeling. If you're a diver, Belize is a great place. There's a place called the Blue Hole. Check it out. It's really cool to look at. It's like the belly button of the earth. It's really cool.
That's really interesting. Now, when you went there, how long were you guys there?
We were there for about 9 days.
When you're there for that long, do you ever get homesick? Are you somebody who gets homesick, or could you have stayed there for another 9 days?
I don't know if I would say I got homesick this time. When I was younger, when my kids were younger and I would travel, I would definitely get homesick. But when they're with me, it's not the same.
Right.
I don't get homesick because home is with me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm somebody who, when I go on a trip, after 3 days, 4 days, I'm ready to come back home.
Yeah.
We went to Las Vegas for a UFC fight, and we were so involved, obviously, so excited. It was the first time we ever went to a UFC event, first time going to Las Vegas as well, Riley and I, just us. But because of all the stress, all the craziness, I would say we were ready by the last day to come back home, right?
Yeah.
And it was only 3 days.
I wasn't even worried about being that far out. I was just wanting to watch the pay-per-view. That's what I wanted. And then once that was over, then I was like, I want to go home.
Yeah, it's time to go home.
So had you been to Vegas before?
No, first time. Neither of us have been there. It's the first time we went, and our first UFC event too. So it was a big memory for us.
Yeah, it was huge.
We went in September of last year, so that was awesome. But I'd be remiss to not talk about the main thing, the main reason why we got you on the podcast, because you are an owner of a great store, Lola's, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how it started. I have no idea. The answers to all these questions.
Okay.
Why is Lola's a thing? When did it begin? How did the whole story begin? You know?
So, well, we've been in business for almost 7 years now. So probably about 8 years ago, right after my father had passed away, I had purchased a building in town in Oxford, and I had also been involved with Oxford Main Street for many, many years. So Oxford Main Street's an organization that helps to, work with the businesses to help revitalize our downtown strip. And, for many years, there was a time when we had a lot of vacancies in our downtown. You guys are younger, so I don't know if you remember that.
Right.
But Oxford Main Street works a lot with the businesses and trying to help revitalize, and did years ago when I was working with them. So I knew that downtown needed a couple specific things at the time. So we were starting to get some really good restaurants in, and they had some longevity and staying power, and they were sticking around. But some of the things that the polls had shown that we needed was a clothing store, shoe store, multiple different kinds of restaurants. Good anchor businesses like that are important. So I had purchased this house. I still own it. It's on Locust Street, and I was meeting with a friend of mine who happens to be my Lola.
Right.
So if you end up following Lola's and watch some of our online material, Lola, who is my business partner, Deb, was the person I was meeting. She was doing a direct sale at the time, and I wanted to purchase something from her so that we could put it at my auction. I wanted to support her.
And sorry to interrupt. So there is two people who own Lola's.
I'm the owner. Deb's my business partner.
I understand. Okay, so you were right about that.
Yes.
So, Riley said that before we started. He goes, there was somebody else.
Deb's the manager of the store. She runs the front. She had this dream. So we meet. I'm having coffee with her, and I would like to believe myself to be a spiritual person, and I really felt as if the Lord said to me when she walked through the door, ask her if she wants to open a boutique.
Wow.
One of the businesses I thought maybe we would put into the building that I had purchased was a small boutique, because it had a second store attached to the building that I purchased. So I thought, okay, this little space could be used for that. Deb herself shared with me after I asked her that question that was kind of a dream of hers.
Wow.
Since she was a young girl. So
Right.
It wasn't really a dream of mine personally. I'm a trained pastry chef. That's what I used to do.
So wow. So this is really interesting. So it was really business related. Like you were on the board, or you had some affiliation with Main Street, correct? And then you meet this girl who has a dream of opening a clothing shop.
So it was
and
just made to be.
So was it like you were investing in the company? Was it like, how did that all come together? You know what I mean?
Well, through our conversation, Deb wasn't really in the position to take on a business such as that on her own. So we decided it was something that we would do together. And like I said, here we are almost 7 years later. And it has been a beautiful partnership, because I didn't think I had that kind of dream when we started.
Yeah.
But as we grew it, and I have to do a little plug for my sister, my little sister Deb, kind of came along for the ride at the beginning.
Wow.
We didn't know what we were doing. I'd never opened a business, never thought I was going to open a business such as that. I quite honestly was too scared to ever open a business on my own. But when you have the prompting of the Holy Spirit, you kind of do what you're told. So
Okay, so
if you didn't have the business, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? I don't know. I always find myself doing something.
Yeah.
Being a pastry chef, I at one point thought that maybe I would have some type of restaurant or bake shop, but it's a tremendous amount of work to have a restaurant.
Yeah.
I have
sure
high regard and respect for people who are in food service. It was
hard doing that.
It was a long, hard hours. When I started having children, I just worked out of my home, and that was enough for me. So I had continued to dabble and have my hands in it, but it didn't take over my life.
I'll come back to Lola's, but now because you've mentioned it a couple times, I'm really interested. You seem to be religious. Is that fair? So have you always been religious? Is this something that you got into not too long ago? These types of conversations always fascinate me, and we've never had somebody as a guest talk about that. If you're comfortable with talking about that, I would love to hear how you got into it, why you
I'm
know.
always cautious to use the word religious, because I think that has a negative connotation for a lot of people. I would like to say that I am a lover of Jesus. I was taken to church as a young girl. My parents did that. And then there were some very specific women in my life who really prayed over me, supported me, taught me, and sustained me through some really, really difficult times.
Wow.
And probably might not have made it through some things in my life. I have a beautiful, very lovely church who accepted me when I probably would not have considered myself someone who would have been welcomed into most churches' open arms. I'm probably the black sheep of my family. If something could be done wrong, I probably did it wrong. I did. Kind of an open book.
Gotcha.
But,
you really do enjoy it? Do you do a lot of research? Do you do a lot of, do you put a lot of effort into your faith? Because that's something that, I always found so interesting, is that I feel like you have to put a lot of effort into it, just like everything else. I think a lot of people always wonder all these things, might not believe all these things, but if you don't put effort into anything, you're not going to get anything into return. I feel like, at least for myself with my own experiences with faith, I have to put an effort into it, and I do feel like that always helps, helps me at least. Is it the same for you?
I think, again, I would not choose the word effort. Is it something that you probably should be diligent with? Like, effort to me almost means like it's work, and it's something negative. So for me, my faith and what I believe is sustaining.
I understand. Okay.
So yes, does it require work and some time and commitment and prioritizing, which I'm not always good at. I wish I were better at that. I can become very passionate about something, and then I don't always put my priorities in the right way.
Right.
So I would like to say that my faith and my diligence towards that would always be my priority. Unfortunately, it isn't always, but it is something that is definitely part of me, and who I am.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
Also part of our business, because Lola is also very much in that same mindset.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great stuff. And when you guys started the business, like you said, how long has it been, up?
Almost 7 years.
7 years.
Well, probably really 7 years now, from the time we had the conversation until the time we took our first trip to market, not knowing what we were doing. Again, here we are at market, don't even have a brick and mortar store, and we're placing orders for this dream that we have.
Right.
And
like, the first time you opened the store, did you ever think of it as blowing it up like this?
Just thought we were going to open this cute little boutique, which I still think we are a cute little store, but I think what we learned was that the community desired maybe a little bit more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and of course, our life has changed dramatically from the time that we opened until now. Having been through COVID, you guys are young, so that it was, very traumatic, I'm sure, for you guys.
Yeah, I was in school. I was in school. It was my sophomore year.
2 years was just like poof.
Yeah,
right.
I completely lost my whole junior year. You lost your what? Freshman year.
Yeah.
Freshman
and
part of the eighth. Yeah.
It kind of changes you. It alters how you look at things.
Definitely
certainly was very stressful for everyone, whether you were a business owner or whether you were a student. There was all this kind of stress, and I think that we've changed a lot because we had to, because the world kind of changed. And I think people after COVID really appreciated small businesses. They appreciated brick and mortar. They appreciated their towns and their communities. And I feel that our community in particular really did take that very seriously, and has kind of stayed with that thought.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of going back to kind of what Riley was asking, with the growth of it, when did you guys see, okay, this is getting a lot bigger than, we expected? Maybe not even expected. Maybe you did have big expectations.
We had no expectations.
Okay, so
really had no expectations. And I think what happened, I think COVID kind of changed things for us in some ways, because my daughter-in-law, Lauren, who is the manager of the It's So Lola's part of the store, which is where our prom gown, our cocktail, all of those things are. She was living in Penn State at the time, and she worked at a salon, so she lost her job during COVID. And she said, Nancy, I've always wanted to help. Where can I plug in? What can I do? And I said, well, we've already thought we would dabble with the online part of it. Mm-hmm. Because most POS systems are designed to be able to provide you with that. So it was kind of a silly thing not to utilize it. And here we were in COVID, where people wanted to buy things, but how did they do it? They could do it online. So she started that part of it. And really, I think that is when we took a more thoughtful approach at our growth.
Right.
Before, I want to say it was fun. We were having a wonderful time.
Like you said, you had no expectations.
No expectations, but now all of a sudden you're making these, significant investments.
Right.
I think one of my greatest joys out of all of it is, having people to have a career, a job, opportunities. That to me is very exciting. Good. I like that.
Yeah, for sure. And you also told me, when we spoke for the first time, you told me you just love doing what you do. And and something that, and I told Riley this before we started the podcast, because you guys have never met before this podcast. And you are, on all honesty, not just saying this because you're on the podcast, you are one of the best people I've ever talked to. The way you present things, the way you say things, you could tell that you're an owner of a business. And because we're kind of starting our own thing now, with the podcast, and we have a lot of huge things coming. We can't say all the things right now, but starting a business is a big deal. And we put a lot of time into this. We have 2 podcasts. We have a gameplay that we do. We have a website that is, luckily, it's run by a buddy of mine and his marketing agency. But there's a lot of moving pieces to everything. And, like I know with your business specifically, there's a chain of command. But I'm sure things get stressful because you're at the top of it all. How do you handle all the stress when it's coming all your way? Whether, you might have people, below you that are taking care of a lot of the stress for you, but I know, there's got to be days that are stressful. And, like even with today, before you came here, you said it was short-staffed, it was busy, and,
Short-staffed, a little busy, which is always a wonderful thing, so you never want to complain about that.
Right.
I think that the key and most important thing when running a business, obviously, you're always going to have stress, so you kind of anticipate that. But you have to have a place to put it when you are away from it. So those compartmentalizing certain things of your life. Men are traditionally better at that than women are. So I've had to learn a lot about that. Putting people in place in a position where their skill set is better than yours. So where I lack, I need to hire and work with someone who has that skill set that I need, that I may not be good at. But if they're better at it, so be it. Because now I can, if you can delegate to a person who is as passionate about their work as you are, but their skill set is better in the area that you need them, then right there is the key.
Let them do it.
Never being afraid that someone might know something more than you do, and being willing to learn from them. So that helps alleviate a lot of stress.
Right.
So I didn't really know how to do a website, and Lauren probably didn't either when she first started, but she was passionate enough to learn how to do it.
Yeah, and actually,
she did it.
Great example going back to my buddy Chris. He was actually the second episode on this podcast, and he's a jiu-jitsu grappler, and he's a good buddy of mine. He has a marketing agency, and we had a website before we started with Chris, and it was one of the most stressful things I've ever had to do. And I lost a lot of money doing it because I didn't know what I was doing. So, I'd pay for, the subscription and this, and then, how the game goes, and I lose all my money. And it got to a point, actually, it was almost like a blessing in disguise. Right when I canceled our website, got rid of our website, Chris sent me a text, and he said, he has a marketing agency. And he would do it for us. And Chris has, he crushes it with our website, and the reason why I brought this up is because that's somewhere that I lack. I edit all these podcasts, the gameplays, everything that we do. I'm able to get through that. I'm a co-host with Riley on the podcast. I can get through that. But when it comes to websites and handling the website, I don't want to do that. Riley's actually in full control, in charge of the website, and then it's ran by CMK Media. If Riley wasn't in the picture, it wouldn't be able to be what it is. I need him to be able to not only be the co-host, but I need him behind the scenes. And it's so important for us. We don't have a team, not at least right now. It's Jack and Riley's show, full on board. For you have this team.
Definitely
now.
have a team, but I mean, it took a long time to establish that,
right,
too.
and figure out who's really going to stay.
Well, and we would have hourly workers at the time, but the core team that put Lola's together, like I said, was Deb and myself, but then my little sister Deb, who was really definitely behind the scenes.
Couple Debs, huh?
But I said Nan and her double D's. That's how I used to introduce myself at
Is there any more
market.
Is there any more Nancys in the?
No,
okay,
no,
good.
there aren't many Nancys around.
Right,
Anybody
good.
over
We don't want a bunch of clones
50,
running around.
You know,
we don't need the clone wars at Woola's, so it's all good.
But
But continue.
But they really, the three of us, we figured it out as we were going. My sister Deb did all the inventory inputting, and of course, back when we first started, inventory wasn't as big. We had a smaller POS system, and then, then things grew, and so now we're exploring and taking time to what's going to work better for us. So now, so much of the job is taking information, extrapolating it, put together a report, and figure out which direction you want to go now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like
with
I
the
said,
inventory, sorry to
That's
to
okay.
interrupt you. I was just curious with the inventory part. Do you have a lot of different suppliers that are sending
We do.
you guys stuff? Okay, so
We do,
You have a
definitely.
lot of different clothing that's coming from a bunch of different
We
areas.
do. Part of what I think makes Lola's as interesting as it is,
Right.
because again, we're kind of like that small department store, so we have everything really clothing wise that you need, but we try and order small batches, best way to put it.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of duplicate things.
Yeah,
So
and plus you
obviously-
can see what works and what doesn't
Mhm.
work, and what
Mhm.
sells and what doesn't sell.
Right.
It is a women's based
Mhm.
store.
Yep.
We had a conversation
Mhm.
before about possibly doing a men's thing.
Possibly.
I know
was
that
just about
that's
to ask
yeah,
that.
I know that's not nothing's official or anything right now, but is that still? Are you able to speak about that at all? Or I know that
I do think that that's something that we're all talking about, and that's really a conversation that we're really at the point where we're going to make a decision, but it's something that everyone who is on the team really has to buy into, because
Yeah.
it's
They
Big
all
deal.
have to agree to it.
it's a big deal.
Yeah,
It's a
that sounds
It's
awesome.
a very big deal. Now, it is the first asked question, that we have all the time. Are you ever going to do men's? Really, this surprised me more than anything when we opened the store.
right.
People started asking, "Are you going to do a men's clothing?" And I thought, "Wow, I'm not even sure what I'm doing with women's clothing."
Right, and
how
if
could I
maybe
do
it's
that?
it might even be a good question to ask, right? Because in a sense, that means
Mhm.
more people want more stuff,
Well,
and this is only better for the business. In a
Look
sense.
for a survey on our social media, because it will be being sent out as to what it is you would
Awesome.
like to
Yeah,
see.
I'll have all of Lola's Instagram,
Perfect.
social media, the website. What's the website? Do you
Our
have a
website. Lola's on 3rd.
Okay.
The number 3, RD.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's
Okay,
also
yeah.
linked to the Instagram, so I'll take care of all
Yep.
that. All that stuff will pop up on the screen for everybody watching. If you're listening to this podcast, you can always come to YouTube and watch the podcast. But another thing that I want to ask you is that it takes a lot of confidence to not only do things but push the needle with stuff. We have a lot of big announcements, like I told you, coming up, and I had to push the needle to get, there's certain guests that are coming on in the future that is, big name people, especially for us, and pushing the needle to, have that happen is a big deal. Also with some of our other announcements. The reason why I bring this up is when you do talk to people about having clothes and about doing this, and it seems like you're a very passionate, person, does it take a lot to push your needle? Because I have a hard time. I think I push a lot, but I feel like without me pushing, there's nothing that's going to happen. We wouldn't have what we're announcing without me driving.
I mean, I feel like
The
if
needle.
something's right there for you, I feel like you just have to go for it.
Yeah.
And see where it goes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Really, the only failure is not trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't do it,
That's
you're not
great.
really doing anything.
Really.
So
I used to
Might as
be
well.
so afraid of doing anything that I knew that I couldn't be successful at.
yeah.
And this took me to a new place in my life, because I had no idea what I was doing.
And you never would have thought it had anything to do with clothing, right? You
Right.
just wanted to do. You looked at it from a perspective of the town,
Mm-hmm.
thinking, here are the
Hey, it's
5
good
different
thing.
stores that we need here.
Right.
And then you approach somebody who had a dream of the whole, which is really an interesting way to get into business because it's really like business. You know what I mean? You were just looking to invest in a company.
Right.
Comparatively to her, she's the one with the passion, which I guess that's how most things, you know, or not all things, but a lot of businesses get created. You get somebody, you get a team, you get a company, you get somebody who's going to invest in your company, help rise, and then you have somebody who's actually, you know, the front of it. Is Debbie inside Lola's a lot? Is she always there? Is she very more behind the scenes?
Lola Deb?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And well, if you go on our Instagram and our social media, you'll see Deb. She normally does a Lola's Live each week. So she'll invite you into the store, share something that's going on.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, she'll promote maybe, for instance, we have a fashion show coming up, so she might be promoting that. We just did a pop-up shop out at Dansco, which is another local business.
Yeah.
And she went on and announced that.
Do you like dipping your toes to partnering with other people and being
absolutely partnership's probably one of your key things.
Yeah.
In all honesty, as to areas where we saw growth is when you partner.
Yeah. So maybe in the future there'll be a talk about Lola's partnership happening here. Maybe we'll have to talk about that in the future.
You're kind of silly not to, because you're now accessing an audience that maybe otherwise wouldn't know you.
Exactly. A big thing, especially with this podcast. So we have a UFC podcast that we do every single week, which is mixed martial arts. And then we have a UFC gameplay that we do every single week. But every other Friday, this is the podcast, obviously, that you're on right now, talk about that. The podcast is having a bunch of different guests. And you know, just to name a few guests that have been on the podcast, we have you, owner of Lola's. We had one of the two men behind Wavine, James Wilson, was also on the podcast.
Well, I know James.
And he's an extremely hard worker.
Well, he's my oldest son's one of his best friends. They were growing up together.
Yeah, great podcast. Suggest everybody to go watch.
So I know the Wilson brothers very well.
Yes,
and they're incredibly hard workers.
Incredibly,
and you should all go to Wavine because it's a fabulous place to go.
Yeah, shout out. And another big thing is we've also had jiu-jitsu grapplers and stuff. As you can see, we're marketing a lot of different genres. You know, I hope we're going to get a very different, you know, fan base or more or less perspective, or people who come to this podcast to learn more about the business side of things. You know, for all the people who, you know, go and shop at Lola's, to be able to hear it from, you know, the person who owns the place. People enjoy those types of things. And that's something, you know, the reason why I brought this up is because we really try to branch out to other things. We were always a UFC first type podcast, type brand. We are big in mixed martial arts. But I told Riley, I said, in order for us to grow, we have to do more. Is Lola's, when somebody asks you, what is Lola's?
Well, I don't know if you guys would ever remember this show, but there was a show called Cheers many years ago, and it was the hometown bar in Boston.
Okay.
And it was kind of that place where they all got together, and it was home, but it was home away from home. So what I would like people to think of Lola's as is their safe store to come to. We want to get to know you. We care about our customer. I want to know why you came into the store. You know, for instance, on Saturday, we had a beautiful customer come in. She was in her 80s. She had just lost her husband.
Oh, man.
And it takes time to ask the right questions when somebody comes into you and they're in that kind of fragile state. You know, can you imagine 60? I think she said 63 years they had been married.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That's incredible.
So, you know, it was an honor. It was an honor to be able to help a customer at that point in their lives. So we want, not just me, because a lot of times I'm in the back, so I have phenomenal sales ladies that work out there. Being in food service for many years, I worked in some Ritz-Carltons, did some freelance work for them, but their culture is what I enjoyed. You know, a customer comes up to you, your guest comes to you and said, what is it that what can I do to help you? You know, and they say, well, right now I need a glass of water. Well, that may not be your job per se, under your job description, but your response to your guest is, it would be my pleasure. Anything that I can do to serve you at this moment, because that is my job. We're in the service industry. and our thinking around service, I think, should be different. It is a pleasure to be in the service industry. I want to be able to serve you. So our guest, when they come in, yes, they're our customer, but really they're our guest. So that's our culture.
Right.
That when you come into our store, you are our guest. Allow us to serve you, wait on you, and take care of your needs. To be fair, and the truth is that larger corporations, I don't believe, invest a lot of time into their training, their sales associates, and how to actually wait on.
Do you have a whole training process on how you like your?
I don't have it written out, but I know I'm
how you
really
want
good
it.
at talking.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
that's why I wanted you on the podcast.
But yeah, we do have an outline of what we believe customer service should be.
I feel like a lot of companies have the same type of deal, but it's not always displayed the same. Like I said, in all honesty, walking into your store with the people that, greeted me, they were all extremely passionate. And even though I feel that most businesses push that, it takes the right people, the right team to really push it, because all businesses say the same thing. We're here, we're kind, this is the place to be, come on and show up. But let's be honest here, not every place has the best people, the best team, the best everything. And that's something it does seem Lola's does have. When you got into the industry of clothes, did it take you by surprise? Is there so much to learn?
Oh dear heavens!
In the clothing industry,
we knew nothing. We learned a lot. We're still learning a lot, and I tell you how we learned a lot of what we needed to know at the very beginning, which was by some really phenomenal reps from companies that we were purchasing from.
Okay,
we were very lucky and very blessed to have a couple key players, I would say, gentlemen. I mean, I'm wearing a Liverpool jacket right now. Liverpool is one of my favorite companies, and my Liverpool rep, who is still my Liverpool rep, he and his husband, they taught us a lot. They were very, very open, very honest in helping guide us in how to make purchases and how to make returns and how to make a phone call if an item isn't actually working for you. But asking questions to people who were willing to share was probably the most important thing. But we had no idea what we were doing.
Right. Is it hard to...
I don't even know why we thought we could do it, but...
Was it hard to, maybe trust isn't the right word, but figure out who was going to be the right people?
Well, it was. I mean, there were a lot of misses, trust me.
So, yeah,
there were a lot of misses along the way. Finding the right price points that work well for this community, still being able to sell quality product at affordable prices. Also thinking about our branding, what we wanted to be a clothing store that everybody could really shop at. So we had to find the right mix of finding those right price points, and that does take some time to talking to the right reps and looking at companies, and like I said, trial and error. A lot of things didn't work out. But without asking questions and kind of being persistent, we probably wouldn't have learned as much as we did.
Right. And you said, it's almost been about 7 years. When did you guys start to see, if I can ask, I don't know, profit growth from the actual company?
Well,
that's where I would say that's where, the rise began,
growth,
right?
Unfortunately, the time when we saw that and decided to make the next investment was the COVID year.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So we're kind of...
So are you...
At that point,
was that a blessing in disguise for the company,
reset,
in a sense?
Well, many things came to me because of COVID.
Right.
So my social media manager, Maddie, came to me. She's also a phenomenal sales associate. So she came to me because of COVID. And then Lauren, of course, came to me. Was it a blessing? I think there were some things that happened because of that, which were great. We're still kind of resetting from that, I would have to say, because we started our expansion into Lola's at the time.
Right.
So now Lola's is just at, its 2-year mark, I guess.
Right. So you got Lola's, which is the the shop where you go in and then solos is where they do all the prom stuff, right? The prom fitting.
Mothers of the bride and groom.
Gotcha.
And just more.
Can you get wedding dresses at Lola's?
No.
Okay.
We do not do wedding dresses.
No wedding dresses.
No.
But people do get a lot of bridesmaid dresses, I'm sure, and stuff like that from there. When you guys did, get into it, did you guys know if you were going to go a casual route, a professional route, a little bit of both with your wardrobe, with the apparel itself? Were you guys going to?
I think that's what's probably changed the most.
Okay.
I think when we first started, we were thinking boutique and kind of that fun, eclectic, little different pieces than you can get everywhere else. And then we realized that the need in the community is really for clothing, period. So you've got to have a really good pair of jeans.
Yeah.
And every woman has probably 5 in her drawer.
Yeah. My girlfriend's closet of jeans, the whole thing's jeans.
So we wanted to find really good jeans that work for our customer.
Right.
So we have 4 different jean lines that we buy from, which work very, very well.
Wow.
And they've been 3 of them have been the same ones since we started.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So, so would you say it's, I don't know, maybe it's not extremely professional, but with the prom and with the, bridesmaid stuff, there is a lot of really nice clothing, a lot of nice dresses that come in, but there is a little bit more of a casual in a sense. But, jeans are not very, they're casual. You can wear jeans casually, but,
But a lot of women wear jeans to work now.
Yeah.
And they have specific guidelines,
For sure.
They can be,
whether they're ripped up
or, a darker pair of jeans.
Gotcha.
So we have fun, we have professional, we have it all.
That's very fascinating.
Yeah.
And another thing is when you go out and shop for your clothes now, I'm sure you probably wear a lot of your own clothing, from Lola's and everything, but are you so into it now? You went from not having no desire into clothing. Are you so into it? Like when you pick up a shirt, are you weighing it, making sure it's, making sure it's the right one, or is it not really about that? Or do you not look at it?
I don't know.
That
I
way?
think I get excited, still get excited about it because we think about specific customers now when we buy, so it's still exciting. I don't really buy clothes anywhere else. Very rarely do I buy clothes anywhere else because I almost feel guilty doing it.
A lot of the clothes you wear,
I probably have too many in my closet,
which is cool. That's what I want to do. I said that merchandise is a huge thing that we're gonna very much so dip our toes in. We just did a small merch drop of our plain bat with that logo, our Talk Out logo, and it was all black. It was our retro first ever simple and original drop. But I want to do some big things with clothing, and I would like to almost eventually only wear Talk About stuff, That's a great way to help market yourself, market your stuff, but also, you want to rep the stuff you're wearing. And like you just said, is everything you're wearing right now have a little connection to it?
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go.
It does.
That's great.
It does.
So what does the future hold here for Lola's? What do you think, where do you see Lola's in the next,
what's the next
maybe
step?
3 years? Is that too far? Maybe too short? I think 3 years is a good.
No, I think you'll probably see we'll either expand into, the men's clothing, possibly have a more designated shoe area for the store.
Same area?
Yeah.
You like where you guys are located? Stay in this area? Would you ever want to branch out more? Have multiple different stores? You like it?
Just
nope,
one.
I don't need that.
Yeah. Too much stress?
Yeah, it's not really my desire.
Gotcha.
At my age, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, but eventually I'd like to have as much fun as I work.
Yeah. That's awesome. You work how many days a week do you work? I know you probably get to do whatever you kind of want.
Well, Lola's isn't my only job, so we have a family foundation.
Oh.
The Oxford Area Foundation, and
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, our family foundation was just kind of happened to be in the right place at the right time. Had a great conversation with Brandywine Conservancy. They were in the process of helping the family who owned the land at the time.
What's the foundation all about?
We're a community-based foundation, so our mission was always Oxford-centric organizations, funding Oxford-centric organizations that just edify and support our community.
What weighs more on your schedule, the foundation or Lola's?
Ooh, not the foundation so much anymore because my
who's all a part of that?
So my one son Philip is currently our executive director.
Jeez, are you the owner of that too?
Well, you don't really own a foundation, but we're the board
creator.
of directors.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
We're the board. My great grandfather was the person who created the Oxford Foundation.
So this is 3-4 years of generations of the whole foundation.
Generations,
oh, okay, gotcha. Wow, that's interesting. What do you like doing more? Is that a bad question to ask? Do you know the answer?
They're just different things.
Yeah.
I think Lola's probably takes more of my time. It's nice that my son Philip is now the executive director. I have 4 sons and a daughter, and three of the 4 boys are close enough now that they work on and help out with the preserve. My husband helps. My brother-in-law is there.
Don't mind after the podcast. You send me all that stuff. I will have it all up on
Chelsea
here.
will send it to you.
Okay, cool. You want me to text her instead?
Yeah, text Chelsea.
That's how all the big business people are.
So then we can't forget about Chelsea because without
Chelsea, there's
Chelsea, there's nothing.
I have
Chelsea does everything for me.
I want to say this. I want to tell you this because I have a great thing. I have to bleep this out because I'm not allowed to say this yet. But we're having getting was a process, and I find it interesting because you're telling me now I need to text Chelsea. It's like that's how I've been getting all these guests. All these big owners got all these assistants. I'm like a freaking pawn in their story. Text Chelsea. I'll text.
Well, I'm telling Chelsea. I know very well. I grew up across the street from.
Yeah, but do you have anything else you want to add?
No, it's been great.
This has been a fantastic. Honestly, podcast. Nancy,
now you guys, I am charging both of you to find yourselves out on the Glenroy Preserve. Okay,
let's do it.
Earth Day's coming up.
Let's do a little talk about
Earth Day's
Foundation
coming
here.
Up,
let's do it.
And we're going to do a cleanup.
Can I talk to you about this?
No, I want you to talk to my son Philip.
Oh, okay. Geez, send it down the lane.
Yeah, you gotta get Philip on.
Nancy's like, never text me again. Don't ever text me again.
Assistant.
Text my son. No. Text Chelsea. I'm done with you, Jack.
Yeah, but I think one of the best things that the foundation has ever done, we've supported a lot of wonderful organizations. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are great organizations that exist in our town, amazing ones, and people don't know a lot about them. But if you ever watch any of our social media, you will see we've invited some of them.
I'm going to throw it up on the screen.
Okay.
But it honestly, that would probably be easiest. If you don't know it all, I guess Chelsea does know about everything with the foundation as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, she works for the foundation.
Okay. So okay. There you go. Jesus. I'm learning a lot today. I will have Chelsea send me everything. Everything will go up on the screen so everybody knows how to get to and find your stuff. We do that with everybody.
Perfect. Because the preserve is probably one of my, what I would consider something that we did with the foundation as a legacy project. So when you think about investing in your community, like I said, we didn't run the organizations. They already were there, existed, and do great things. But this was the opportunity for us to do something that was, I think, more lasting and far more impactful. So the preserve is pretty important, and especially after COVID, when people needed places to go. They were trapped in their homes, and they needed a place to walk outside and clear their head and take their dog for a run and listen to the stream go by and watch the birds. This is a real important thing that I feel that we embarked on.
Especially right now, we're more of a local, this is more of a local podcast, especially with Talk About That, this podcast. The UFC one, I think, gets more the eyes from all over the world because, but Talk About That, especially lately, has been a lot of local stuff. And, yes, please, everybody go to the website for Lola's. Please go look at the foundation as well. The websites will be up on the screen. Listening to the podcast, go to YouTube to watch the visual. Nancy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Was it easier than you expected?
Okay. I may never watch the YouTube because I really never like to watch it. But
no, you did a great job. You did a great job. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a good day and peace.